Isaac Newton's law of universal gravitation depicts instantaneous action at a distance. The equation suggests that weight changes when an object is at a new location.
Newton attempted to simulate instantaneity with a flow of particles. However, as we saw in the previous video, Newton's universal equation is not about force, pushing or pulling, but about tension. Unlike force, tension is conceptually static. It is impossible to model tension with one-way particles. If weight is a tension, any theory that invokes particles is simply wrong. Albert Einstein proposed an alternate physical interpretation for gravity, which can be likened to a roulette. Rather than particles flying from the sun to the earth, Einstein suggested that gravity is the result of the curvature of space. Einstein visualized space as a physical medium, specifically as a surrealistic two-dimensional canvas embedded in a three-dimensional stage. Planets allegedly push this canvas downwards, generate distortions in the fabric of space-time, and compel other objects to roll down the wells.
There are, however, insurmountable problems with Einstein's gravitational theory.
A buoy floating in the ocean is sandwiched between air and water. There are two mediums enclosing the device. In Einstein's theory, space acts the part of the cosmic ocean, and Earth has the buoy. So what is the black stuff that surrounds and gives shape to the canvas? What medium contours space if space is the grid? Another fatal problem is Einstein's explanation for gravity. Einstein theorizes that the canvas sinks when a planet sits on it. What induces our planet to weigh the canvas downwards in the first place? Einstein invokes gravity to explain gravity. Why doesn't the canvas sink upwards? Nevertheless, if the sun weighs the canvas downwards, this would explain why the Earth rolls around it. And since the Earth also weighs the canvas downwards, this explains why the moon rolls around the Earth and periodically causes eclipses. It doesn't explain why Uranus's moon Oberon orbits the planet over the poles and towards the sun. Oberon does not follow the alleged warp space predicted by Einstein. Oberon orbits in the direction in which Uranus spins. Einstein's prediction is also at odds with Charon's orbit around Pluto, which together describe a bullseye pattern as seen from the sun. Charon clearly orbits in the direction in which the planet spins, and not because of an alleged warp space surrounding Pluto. Relativists candidly admit that they cannot even imagine warp space. So how do the mathematicians intend to prove through experiment what they cannot even draw on the board? Like Newton, quantum mechanics proposes that particles mediate gravity. Objects attract one another because gravitons travel from surface to surface, delivering negative momentum. Of course, with such ridiculous explanations, it is not surprising that the mathematicians have never been able to incorporate gravity within this fantastic billiard ball theory. After further consideration and having no alternatives, string theorists changed their minds and concluded that relativity's static well and quantum's dynamic gravitons were not inconsistent with each other after all. The contemporary mathematicians spend their time trying to prove that space-time is quantized, meaning that it is made of discrete points. But this pursuit is a waste of time. Relativity has always postulated that the building blocks of space-time are points known as events. String theorists have not discovered anything new. Assuming that the mathematicians eventually prove that space-time is quantized, will they explain gravity as a series of gravitons which deliver negative momentum? Or will they explain gravity as the curvature of space? Yet more amusing is the plain fact that quantized spacetime does not result in a bowling ball weighing down a rubbery canvas. Relativists are describing a bowling ball stuck in a sandbox. How does the Earth pull on the moon through a sea of discrete grains of sand?
At the turn of the century, the mathematicians abandoned Newton's equation and opted for Einstein's, allegedly because it was more accurate. Actually, it wasn't a petty difference in precision, but that the scholars gave up trying to justify Newton's gravity equation with one-way particles.
Indeed, the mathematicians at NASA and at every observatory in the world still use Newton's universal equation for routine gravitational calculations. Moreover, relativity's warp space proposal is limited to the macro world of planets and galaxies, while quantum gravitons are limited to the world of atoms and molecules. You cannot use Einstein's equation or his warp space hypothesis to explain Cavendish's torsion experiment. Relativists confess that space is all but flat at the scale of your basement. On the other hand, Newton's universal equation applies to both the macro and the micro worlds. However, before we can use the equation, we must come to terms with the fact that it does not deal with force, but rather with tension. And we certainly cannot model tension with particles. Here we will model Newton's amply verified and used equation with the electromagnetic rope we introduced in video number 7. The hypothesis is that every atom in the universe is connected to all others via electromagnetic ropes. Here we have two objects consisting of 4 hydrogen atoms each and separated by distance. Physical interpretation of the mass times mass factor in Newton's equation is that each of the atoms comprising the two objects is connected to all of the others.
So, for example, if you have the Earth, there's a big mass here, and you have you with your little mass here, that every atom on the Earth is pulling on every atom of you. You're also pulling on it.
We have 4 atoms on each side interconnected by 16 ropes. The resulting exponent represents the number of electromagnetic ropes interconnecting the two objects. Unlike one-way particles and waves, the electromagnetic rope generates gravity not by traveling like particles or stretching like a rubber band, but by aggregation. When two objects are far apart, most of the ropes superimpose and act as one. Conversely, when the objects are close together, the ropes fan out. What changes is the angle at which the ropes pull as two objects approach each other. The change in angle is necessarily instantaneous and explains why weight is location specific. Aggregation explains why the dynamic effect of gravity is to accelerate the object. The closer two objects are to each other, the greater the number of ropes that pull individually. The more ropes that act independently, the stronger the tension at that location, and the faster the object will move towards its next location. We refer to this increase in speed as acceleration.
The interconnectivity of atoms also explains why gravity penetrates all objects.
You're pulling on all of them. The amazing thing about gravity is it goes right through things.
You cannot build a gravity shield because every atom in your body is bound by electromagnetic ropes right through the shield.
Mach's principle is yet another phenomenon which reinforces that all atoms in the universe are interconnected.
A rotating object magically tugs on the remaining matter in the universe. Einstein's disciples have attempted to sweep the troublesome principle away because they have no explanation for this phenomenon under the warp space proposal.
In contrast, the rope hypothesis physically justifies Mach's principle and enables us to incorporate it within Newton's equation.
The gravitational constant g has a value of 6.6 times 10 to the minus 11 meters cubed, kilograms second squared. Although relativists routinely use this constant in their equations, they have never understood its meaning. Under the rope hypothesis, the unit of matter is the hydrogen atom, and every atom in the universe is bound to all others via twined electromagnetic threads. An atom pumps torsion waves to all others, and also receives them. Therefore, we must find the hydrogen atom and the velocity of light squared within the equation. To simplify the explanation, let's multiply the numerator and the denominator by 10 to the 16 kilograms. We can now factor out the mass of the hydrogen atom and the velocity of light squared. By doing so, we have accounted for the entire denominator. The term c squared suggests that every unit of mass in the universe sends the signal we call light to every atom in the universe, and every atom in the universe pays back in kind.
The threads that comprise the rope are the fundamental building blocks of matter. They are, by definition, not made of simpler units. In this sense, the electromagnetic rope is nothing like the rope of our everyday experience. The torque signal travels at a constant rate, and this suggests that the electromagnetic rope is under constant tension. Where would the extra matter necessary to fuel stretching come from otherwise? In physics, length, width, and height cannot surreptitiously appear from the void like they do in mathematics.